My name is Caden Berry, and today I will be talking about curling, a sport that combines strategy, precision, and teamwork. It might look simple, but it's actually very tactical and calculated. In this presentation, I'll break down how it works and the key issues shaping its future. Curling is played on a long sheet of ice with a target called the house. Teams slide 40-pound granite stones toward that target, and it's often called chess on ice because every shot sets up the next. If you're watching this during the Olympics, you'll see some shots that they take, and you're like, oh, why do they do that? Well, they're setting up their next shot, or they're blocking an opponent's shot. Curling is most popular in Canada, where it's almost a national sport right behind hockey. European countries like Sweden, Scotland, and Switzerland are also dominant. We'll talk a little bit about the Canada and Sweden rivalry here coming up. But now it's expanding into places like South Korea, Japan, and even Jamaica, which I thought was interesting. The Jamaican bobsled team, now they got a Jamaican curling team. So it's really growing as a sport globally. Now, how does it actually work? Well, each team throws 8 stones per round, called an end. The goal is to have your stones closest to the center after all throws, as you can imagine. Only one team scores per end, based on how many stones are closer. Kind of like cornhole. If you're playing, only one team is going to score per round. Also, as you can imagine, precision is critical. You're aiming within inches from over 100 feet away from end to end. Sweepers communicate constantly to adjust speed and direction of the stone. And the skip, or the team's captain, controls the strategy and shot collection. So if you're watching during the Olympics or something, and you hear somebody yelling and shouting, sweep, 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 or hold, 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 that's their skip leading the strategy. So the equipment is pretty standard, regardless of if you're playing at a local level or a global level. The stone weighs about 40 to 44 pounds, and again, made of granite. Sweeping actually melts the ice slightly to control movement, so there's like large friction going on to allow for different speeds of the glide. And the shoes you wear during curling are actually really specialized. One slides and one grips for balance and control. So if you're moving, you'll put pressure on the slide shoe and vice versa for the grip shoe. So in terms of governance, the World Curling Federation is in charge of the sport globally. It oversees rules, rankings, and international competition. National bodies like USA Curling manage development locally. A lot of these countries have their own development programs as the sport grows, and they're putting teams together to go compete globally, similar to how Team USA has a basketball association and a baseball association and things of that nature. The biggest event, as we probably all know, is the Winter Olympics. It's held every 4 years, but there's also annual World Championships for men, women, and mixed doubles. The Grand Slam of curling is a professional tour with multiple elite events. Compare that to the golf tennis Grand Slam or whatever you name it. They put on these events and tours globally to make sure the competition is not just happening once every 4 years. So really, the curling season runs through the winter months. Major events include the Brier in Canada for men and the Scotties Tournament of Hearts for women. I've included that kind of TSN, Toronto Sports Network graphic on this just to give you an idea of. They put a lot of money behind this because, like I said, it is a big deal for Canada. It's kind of their second big sport, hockey, basketball, and curling. So they put a lot of media and marketing expenses into this, and it really is growing. And these obviously lead into the Worlds and Olympic qualification. So the Canadian teams that compete in this, the ones that win, are probably going to be the ones that represent Canada in the Olympics. So, some big names in curling. Obviously had to look into this. I wasn't aware beforehand of any of these people. But Brad Gushue is an Olympic gold medalist and Canadian legend. He has his own page on the Grand Slam curling website. Nicholas Eden from Sweden, also on the site, has dominated world championships for years. Those are kind of the two big names in the men's side. And then Rachel Homan is one of the top women's curlers with multiple international titles. She's the leader of pretty much every team from her country that goes to the Olympics over the past 16 years. So as I've alluded to in some previous slides in this presentation, Canada historically has dominated curling for decades. Recently, Sweden has become one of the top countries globally, and it's really producing a rivalry between Canada and Sweden. USA had some good performances in the Olympics, but it's really Canada and Sweden that's competing for most of the world titles. These two nations are responsible for most of the world's and the Olympics titles over the past few decades. So curling includes separate men and women's competitions. Mixed doubles features one male and one female player per team, while mixed doubles was added to the Olympics in 2018 and is growing fast. Most players start at local curling clubs, especially in Canada. They're kind of all over the place. They compete in regional and national championships, and the best teams represent their country at the Worlds and the Olympics. Curling is one of the stronger sports in terms of TV ratings during the Winter Olympics. In Canada, major events are regularly broadcast on national television, especially through TSN. But globally it still remains a niche sport with limited exposure. One major issue with curling is access to facilities. You need specialized ice that's different from hockey rinks, and because of the cost, many regions simply don't have curling clubs. Curling relies heavily on Olympic exposure for revenue and growth. Outside of that, sponsorships and media deals are pretty limited. Compared to sports like basketball or football, commercialization is much lower. Curling traditionally has a strong reputation of honesty and self-officiating. Players often call their own fouls, which is rare in sports. But as prize money and stakes increase, maintaining that culture becomes harder. There was some drama during the Olympics this year. Toe crossed the line, didn't get called. There's no referee really to, mitigate those challenges. So it really is kind of an honor system, and like I said, as the money grows, that's becoming a little bit more of an issue. Now, countries like South Korea have boosted interest after Olympic success. I think they got 4th or 5th in the most recent Olympics, but that really introduced curling to millions of new viewers across the world, and that exposure has been the biggest driver of growth. When it comes down to it, future growth depends on building more facilities worldwide. Increasing media coverage beyond the Olympics is also key, but without those, the sport will struggle to expand. Overall, curling is a smaller sport in terms of global reach, but I included this picture of the Jamaican women's team to show that, it is starting to take off a little bit. But it offers a mix of unique strategy, teamwork, and precision, and its future depends on solving issues around access and visibility. This concludes my presentation. Thank you for your time, and here are the references, sources for images and information. Thank you.